If you have ever wondered why some people seem to build wealth faster than anyone around them, why they appear to glide through life with increasing assets while paying far less in taxes than the average worker, then stay with me. Because today I want to show you a strategy that has quietly shaped the fortunes of many of the richest individuals in America, a strategy that almost no one explains in simple terms, a strategy that has nothing to do with luck and everything to do with understanding how the financial system rewards certain choices. And the strategy I want to break down for you is known as Buy, Borrow, Die, a method that, when used correctly, can transform how your income works, how your cash flow operates, and how you grow your net worth year after year without triggering the avalanche of taxes most people assume are unavoidable. And I want to guide you through every piece of it, because once you grasp how this works, you will never look at income or assets the same way again. So let us begin by simplifying the core idea, because many people hear the phrase buy, borrow, die, and they immediately think it is something complicated, something reserved for billionaires, something wrapped in legal jargon and hidden rules. But the truth is that the foundation of this method is incredibly simple. You buy assets that rise in value. You borrow against those assets instead of selling them. And eventually, after you are gone, those assets receive a step up in basis that eliminates the taxes that would have been due on all that growth. What makes this strategy even more powerful is that borrowing money is not taxable income, which means the cash you take out of your assets does not count as taxable earnings, even though you can use that money to live, to invest, to build, to grow, essentially turning your assets into a machine that pays you without ever triggering the taxes that ordinary income earns. Now imagine for a moment that you buy something that increases in value over time, something like a property, a set of stocks, an index fund, or even a piece of art. Let us begin with real estate, because it is one of the most intuitive examples. Suppose you buy a building for $1 million. You manage it carefully. Rental income covers the expenses, and the property appreciates steadily over the years. Maybe it grows 4 or 5% each year, maybe more during times of inflation. After 10 years, the property is worth $2 million. You have gained $1 million in value, but here is the crucial point. You never paid taxes on that appreciation because you never sold the building. The government does not tax growth that sits inside an asset. That growth is called an unrealized gain, and unrealized gains are not taxable. The same thing happens with stocks. If you buy $1,000 of Microsoft stock or an index fund like SPY and it becomes $10,000 over time, you owe no tax until you sell it. And in the buy, borrow, die strategy, the key is that you almost never sell. But before we go deeper, we need to clarify what you should actually buy, because not every asset works well for this method. The asset must appreciate, but it must also be something you can borrow against. That means the asset must be lendable, something a bank or financial institution is comfortable issuing a loan on. Real estate qualifies. Stocks held in a brokerage account qualify, and when you borrow against them, it is called a securities-backed line of credit. Cash value life insurance qualifies. Certain retirement plans like a 401k allow borrowing, though not all retirement accounts do. Even art can qualify because collectors and institutions lend against high-value collections. The common theme is simple. You want assets that can rise in value and that banks recognize as collateral. Once you understand what to buy, then you unlock the second step, which is borrowing. And this is the moment most people fail to understand because they are so conditioned to believe that borrowing money is harmful or dangerous, that taking loans is always a weakness. But wealthy individuals use loans differently. They use loans as income. And here is why it works. When you borrow money, loan proceeds are not taxable. The government does not treat borrowed cash as income, because technically you are required to pay it back. And since it is not income, it completely avoids the taxes that ordinary earnings from a job would face. Think about how powerful that is. If you wanted to take $100,000 out of your stock portfolio, your financial advisor might tell you to sell the stock. But selling triggers taxes, depending on your state, depending on long-term capital gains, depending on net investment taxes. You could lose 30% of that money just to taxes before you ever see it. The wealthy avoid this entirely. Instead of selling, they simply borrow $100,000 against the portfolio. They keep the stock, they avoid taxes, and they use the borrowed money for whatever they want. And the same principle applies to real estate. If you buy a house for $500,000 and over time it becomes worth $1 million, you can take a home equity line of credit and borrow $200,000 tax-free. If it is investment property, you can borrow even more through a cash-out refinance, also tax-free. This is one of the ways wealthy real estate investors fund their lifestyle and expand their portfolios. They let the properties cook in what some call the financial crock pot, appreciating year after year, and then they borrow against the equity instead of selling. They do not take taxable distributions. They simply redirect the growth into usable cash, and the entire time, they still own the asset and still enjoy the appreciation. Now, some people hear this and say, but wait, if you borrow money, you must pay it back, right? And the answer is yes for some assets and no for others. When you borrow against life insurance, for example, you do not personally repay the loan. When you pass away, the death benefit pays the loan off. Even better, the death benefit is not taxable. So the loan was tax-free and the repayment is also tax-free. For real estate, sometimes you repay through refinance, sometimes through sale, sometimes through other assets. For stocks, you might pay the loan down or roll it forward. But the core